Hello, BookTube. Lori here, back with you on Books, Ink, and Paper. And today I have a book review. I recently finished the book Beartown by Fredrik Backman. I have waited it's been almost a week since I finished this book. I finished it 5 days ago. And I gave it 5 stars, but I want to be very cautious about this book review for a couple of reasons. One, because it is very difficult subject matter that might be challenging for some readers. And two, because I would be remiss if I didn't include a warning to those readers who may be victims of sexual assault. I am including this as a spoiler in some ways, but because I've worked with victims of sexual assault, I myself am a victim of sexual assault. And so I want to be clear that this is not always easy reading. Even though it was a tremendously well-written book, and I am grateful that I read it. And I was not particularly triggered by the description of the sensitive areas of the plot because my experience was very different. However, I cannot create this review without putting that out there first off. So take great care while you're reading this book if you decide to read it. If you have read it, I would love to hear your reactions in the comments below. But do take care. I don't think there's a need to really go into detail about what happens in the plot because I think that it is fairly common knowledge that there is a sexual assault plot within this book. I've watched some other folks talk about this book and I think that there's, I think most people know that. However, here's what I don't love. I don't love spoiling book plots, and I have done to my children before on just not thinking. And I don't love, even if I do give you a warning, I want you to I think you can make good decisions for yourself. Having said that though, I began this book not really understanding exactly what would happen. I knew that it was about a hockey team in a small town now it turns out Sweden. At first I thought it was Alaska. It's a Swedish author. Fredrik Backman is Swedish all the way. And I can see my family is Swedish. I can see I can see the small town development. I can see the mindsets. I can see a lot of things that are familiar to me from that plot. A community, connected community, involved community, centers around a hockey team coached by one of the main characters. A couple of the coaches are developed within the plot line. The players are developed very carefully throughout the novel. The other peripheral parents and other characters that show up in this book as important are slowly developed. Here's what I want you to know. At times at the beginning, I felt like it was a little slow. I was at one point not sure I would give it 5 stars. But I now know that meticulous, strategic character development was purposeful and masterful. It allowed me to connect all those threads later when it was important to do so. The setting was clear. The community development was clear. The strengths of the hockey team were clear. The relationships among peers and couples and colleagues were clear. It was really intentionally developed. And in the end, I was grateful for what may have been a bit of a lag now and again in the reading and listening. I will say I did both read and listen to this novel. I wasn't crazy about the narrator in the version I listened to, which I think I downloaded, I'm sure I did, from my library on Overdrive. It's possible, I have discovered, that the narrators for different audio products are different. So it's possible that the Audible version is read by a different actor or different narrator, and that could be enhanced for sure. I did read the Overdrive version of this audiobook, and there were moments where I had a little trouble with the narrator and just the ability of the narrator to create voices that in my head sounded like a woman or a man or a girl or a boy. But I could overlook it because the plot did start to develop. How long before I felt like it really engaged, I will say, was right around the time where the main plot shift begins, where the action really starts, where the tragedy starts to kick in. You can feel it building, and when it hits, it's a shot in the heart, but it's not something you didn't really anticipate was going to happen. What was surprising to me was the last 100 pages. In fact, I sped through them because it all began to sort of connect in a way that was beautiful and tragic at the same time. It was heartbreaking and heart-wrenching, and yet it just kept unfolding and unfolding and unfolding and unfolding until I said on my instant sort of, I finished this book and here's what I think. I said, this was a 15 Kleenex, 5-star read, and it left me wrecked. I sobbed at the end of this book, and I won't tell you why, and I won't spoil anything about any of it. And I know other people that have recommended it to me on BookTube and on other, in person and in other ways, had the same experience. But let me just say that when you read the last 100 or so pages, you want to be in a space somewhere, somehow, where you can be free to express whatever emotion you need to express. And it is a really deeply moving ending. I can't imagine, like, I tried to think about, which after I read it, I recommended it to my kids, and I try to think about my son reading it. And I wonder if he decides to do it, I wonder if he would have such an emotional reaction as well, because there are so many perspectives. I remember, and I said this to someone after, in a message after I read it, because she reached out to me and, you know, basically said, I felt the same way. I was wrecked. I was, you know, this, and this. And other people have reached out to me since too. A couple people have reached out to me and said, I just didn't love it. And that's okay. I mean, that's what makes us all the eclectic readers that we are. But I remember reading years and years and years ago, I remember reading Wally Lamb's novel, She's Come Undone. And I kept thinking as I was reading it, a man could not have written this book from the perspective of a woman and made it so clearly resonant with me, so much so that it seemed impossible that a man could have written that book. Made me love Wally Lamb forever. In this case, Fredrik Backman not only writes from the perspective of a number of women characters, female characters in this book. He writes from the perspective of a number of male characters in this book, from an age range of teens to old men. He captured perspectives of characters in this novel that were so rich and so well done that I had a hard time imagining how one man could have done so well at this. I thought to myself, this seems impossible. All of the respect in the world for this author at this moment. I have read nothing else of Fredrik Backman's. I've heard mixed reviews on some of his other stuff. I know he has a sequel to this book. I'm not sure if I can handle it right now, but I'm telling you, all the props in the world to this author, because if you can write from that many characters' perspectives and make me feel as though I completely understand that character's personality and motivation and experience and emotion and motive and determination and ethic and whatever else you can use to describe it. If you can do that for me, then you have mastered something that a lot of people, a lot of authors might never master. So, 5 stars. Fredrik Backman may be a genius. I loved the acknowledgments at the end. I read them again, sobbing. It took me a good hour to recover from the emotional impact of this book. It took me a good hour. I'm almost tempted not to post this review because it seems as though I am a bit unhinged when I tell you how I reacted to it. But honest to goodness, I would recommend it as long as you are safe when you read it, and as long as you're going in with your eyes wide open. Did I know that this was indeed a book about sexual assault? Not for sure. Did I suspect it was possible? Yes. I just knew that an event happened in the book that drove the town into a divide. And there are a few things that do that. So it was possible that, it could have gone a different way, but I was not surprised when that happened. But I was mindful of the fact that if I had had a different experience in my life, that may have been impossible for me to get through. It's not particularly detailed in ways that it could have been. I've read other books where there's a lot more detail, a lot more trauma, a lot more impact on me in terms of a personal sort of trigger. But I just want everyone watching this video to be clear. Be safe, be aware, and be ready, really, for a ride that is maybe unparalleled in this kind of a story for me. I thought hockey team, I mean, nah, can take or leave. If it was baseball, yeah, bring it on. Hockey, teenagers, kind of take them or leave them most of the time. The relationships in the marriage, in the marriages, in the parenting, in the coaching, in the entrepreneurship, so much, so much. So if you're able and if you're willing, take a look at Beartown by Fredrik Backman and absolutely let me know what you think. 5 stars. Favorite book of the year so far. We'll see what happens in the rest of the coming months, but I'm very, very, very grateful that I read it. Thanks for watching. As always, I appreciate your support, your likes, your comments, your shares, your suggestions, your patience with me. I hope this review was helpful to you. And if you read Beartown, I hope you love it. And as always, happy, happy reading, even if it's a difficult book to read. Have a great weekend. Bye bye.